Hey everybody, and welcome back to At Your Own Pace. This is the show for runners who are showing up however they can on whatever week life is handing them. I'm Mike of Mike Runs Marathons, and whether you're chasing a Boston qualifier, your first 5K, or just the next mile, you're in the right place. Every Monday, we open up with a little real talk about my week on the run. Then we sit down with someone whose story is going to leave you a little bit more fired up than when you press play. So lace up, settle in, and let's run this one together. I'm so excited to speak with my guest today, Coach Jay, who goes by the username kingparkergold2001. And I got to tell you, this conversation was probably one of the most inspirational conversations I've ever had with a runner in general, not even just on this podcast. His story from the very beginning of when he began to run to where he is today is something that I think so many people will one, identify with, because I definitely did, but two, will find this so inspirational and motivating because of the growth, the change, the success, the perseverance and the resilience that he had to show in order to get to where he is today. And as a founder of multiple run clubs, running coach himself, a 241 marathoner, I think that regardless of his pace, his story is still going to inspire you. But before we get into today's guest, I want to start where we always start, which is a check-in. And here's what's been on my mind this week. I know that I spoke last week about the Brooklyn Half and how those of you that watched the video version of this podcast saw that I was not in my normal room with my Boston Marathon banner behind me. And I was in a hotel room because I was in New York City to run the Brooklyn Half for the fourth time. And I think I pointed it out before, but every time that I've done that race, there's been some issue that's come up. The first time I ran it in 2022, I finished, was really happy, but got home and had the most incredible stomach pain of my life, which I discovered later on was actually from me not eating before the race. The second time I ran it, the humidity got me so badly that I finished probably 15 minutes slower than I wanted to. And I got super nauseous and super sick from how hot it was, but I still finished. And then last year was the year that I ran the race with a concussion, but was unaware that I had a concussion. And I'm happy to report that this year I had no issue, which is really weird because I'm not used to that. So the fact that I was able to run this race and not have any major issues before, during, or after the race is a win in my book, regardless of my finish time. Now, when it comes to finish time, I knew that this was a race that was not going to be a PR. I let everybody know that too last week, and I knew that in my head. I was still recovering from Boston. I was still just kind of what is my body doing? It was like tired and sore and just exhausted, and I was I felt burnt out. So when we began the race, I ran the first 3 miles at what probably would have been an amazing pace to finish at. Got to the 5K marker and decided, no, this is not a race that I'm going to try to PR. I was tired. We got to the first hill in Prospect Park and I just said, I can't. So I did the Galloway method for the rest of the race and finished, ironically, in the same exact time as my finish in 2022. But that could also be I think it was my Strava time that I matched. The official time in 2022, I think, was 1:46:30, and I finished in 1:45:35 or 38. I don't remember. Still a decent time. Obviously, not my fastest. Nowhere close to a PR. But I still finished, and I didn't have any issues during the race. So, ignoring the finish time, this was a win for me. And I spent the rest of the day just kind of relaxing. I took a really long hot shower, and that was kind of it. Met up with some friends. Boy, was I tired for the rest of the day. I took a nap, actually, when I got back and passed out for several hours. Then the next day, I met up with a couple fellow Shockstar members. I am a co-captain of the New York City tri-state area Shock Squad group. So there's like 75 of us, and I'm a co-captain. We are the largest group, and I'm a co-captain with a lovely woman named Bonnie Lee. She goes by the username Brooklyn Run Mama, and we got together with about 7 other runners. We had an issue because the Long Island Railroad went on strike, so several people who were in Long Island couldn't come in, which is fine because we're going to have a meetup every month. If you are in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, probably Connecticut, feel free to let us know if you want to come down. We'll all hang out. We're going to start celebrating races that New York Roadrunners does every month and have a nice big party, a big picnic, and cheer on runners as they go about their races. But we met up for the first time. We got to hang out with a bunch of different runners. The majority of us, I think all of us actually, finished the Brooklyn Half. So we got to discuss how that went. And I got to meet some people that I actually follow, like the Shirtless Runner, which was awesome. And for the first time in my life, I got to meet somebody who had not one, not two, but 3 6-star medals. 3. They just completed their 3rd 6-star medal in London back in April. So it was crazy to see him pull out 3 medals, and then his friend pulled out 2. And I thought it was cool to have 1. I've never seen that before. So it was pretty cool to see people who had done these so many times that they've been able to do that. And got some breakfast. We were going to go on a run, but we were all just kind of like exhausted and beat from the race the day before because it was so hot that we just decided to go walk and grab breakfast and coffee and just kind of shoot the shit and have fun and talk and learn more about each other. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I can sometimes be introverted and not really be that great at small talk, but I think maybe, I'm not sure if it was being around other runners or just my personality changing over the last couple of years from running, making me more confident. But it was super easy to talk with these people. But yeah, spent time with them for a couple hours, which is great. Then went for a run around Central Park and went back home to my family. And then unfortunately, Monday happened. And those of you that listened last week know that last week was my final week of paternity leave. And that meant that Monday, May 18th, I had to go back to work. I was not looking forward to it. Yes, I primarily work from home at times, depending on the client that I work for, but just found out that I'm going to have to work out of state 3 days a week starting next week. And not super thrilled with that, having just had a baby, but in this market, you take what you can get, is what I told someone. There's too much ambiguity and uncertainty right now in the job market, companies in general, because of everything that's happening in the world, that I didn't really have a choice. And to be honest, if this were like the normal times, in quotes, I say, because like before COVID, when we had to go to work 5 days a week, this would be no different. You know, if I did have a kid back then before everything changed. So that's what I'm trying to tell myself. But it's still a struggle. I mean, I'm lucky because my wife is still on maternity leave. I still get to spend time with my baby because I'm home. But now there's going to be 2 to 3 days a week where I'm not. And so I'm not going to be able to see her. And it hurts me, breaks my heart. But I also know that as a parent in America, I don't have a choice. Maybe if I lived in another country, it would be different, but not here in the land of the free, home of the brave. But I'm not going to get into the politics of it all because that episode will be about 3 to 5 hours long. But luckily, this week was not terrible because it was just kind of me easing back into work and kind of getting ready to do everything that I needed to do. Nothing really starts technically until next week. So I'm enjoying my long weekend with my family and with myself to be able to go on runs and relax, disconnect from my work, even though I just came back, and be able to enjoy myself. Speaking of running, I am super happy right now. Began to do something this week that I have never done in my life. I have woken up to exercise before work. I ran 10 miles on Wednesday, and then I biked 20 miles on Thursday. Today, because I had off, I ran a little bit later, like around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and it feels great. Okay, I am sad to say that those of you who told me that running early before work makes you feel better for the rest of the day. It makes you feel unstoppable. I am furious at you because you're correct. I'm sorry. I am very stubborn when it comes to this kind of stuff. But you're right. It felt great for the rest of the day after I did that. It felt unstoppable, like I could do anything. So you win. You're right. And I'm going to do my best to continue this. And the crazy thing is that my body is waking up like on its own at 6:30 in the morning. Now I know those of you that wake up at like 5 or 4 when it's dark, and because you go fight your demons because you gotta get hard and carry the boats. This is baby steps for me. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that. 6:30 is a win for me, so I will take that, and I'm going to try to continue to do this. My body has been waking up at this time on its own, which is nuts because I used to wake up at like 11 o'clock in the morning. But then again, I also used to not go to bed until like 4. So those of you that don't have children, I didn't understand this until I had them. But they change your sleep schedule. And I'm not talking about like waking up multiple times during the night. I mean, like literally, I go to bed earlier now, partially because I'm exhausted, but then also because we put her to bed. Why don't we go to bed at the same time? And it's great because now I get like a decent amount of sleep. Garmin, for the first time in like 8 months, a year, told me that my sleep last night was restorative. I cannot tell you how many times I've gotten the message non-restorative over and over and over and over and over again. So to be able to be told by Garmin, who is the David Goggins of fitness watches, that I essentially did a good job sleeping last night is crazy. So I will take that and make that a win too. But all in all, this week has been stressful, but also at the same time not. I have found that since I've moved to working out in the morning, I don't have to worry about when I'm going to fit in a workout during the day. And it also is very weird though. I mean, I hope somebody else can connect with this and identify. When I work out in the morning, when it becomes the afternoon, I feel so weird not exercising. Like I feel like I have to because part of me forgets that I already did it, if that makes sense. Hopefully that goes away, but right now it's just kind of like, wait, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I need to go for my afternoon run. Wait a minute. I already ran at 7, but I don't remember it. It's weird. It's probably my mind just like playing tricks on me. So I apologize for that. But anyway, I digress. Had a good time in the Brooklyn half and wasn't worried about my time. Finished without any issues. I also want to add in that I had one of my coachees, Silver, run the Brooklyn half, and they finished the race after a significant period of time not running. And they told me that with the training that I was able to help them with for the last couple months, that they ended up running more miles than they have since the beginning of last year. And we all know that coming back either into running or stepping into it for the first time is very difficult, especially if we don't have the aerobic capacity, we don't have the endurance. It can take some time to get used to it. So to be able to come into this and train for 13.1 miles and finish, not be injured, be able to go home, rest and relax, eat a pizza, and go for a run the following day, that's a massive win. Silver, I just want to say I'm so proud of you. And I cannot wait for you to run the next one. I guess I'm proud of myself too for getting through the Brooklyn half after being just exhausted for 2 weeks of being knocked out by the Boston Marathon, and also being able to get through the first week back to work after paternity leave. Spending 4 months off with your baby changes your whole perspective around work. And like I said, I unfortunately did not become a successful millionaire content creator. So I did unfortunately have to go back, but still a win in my book for being able to get through both of those things. But before we get to our guest, I just wanted to take a minute to speak about our sponsor for today's episode, which is Shocks. Now, I am a massive fan of Shocks. I have several pairs of Shocks all around my desk and in my house. I have the Overrun Pros, the Overrun Pro 2s. I have the Open.1s, which are my favorite pair of their headphones. And I use them for all of my running. All of my racing makes me feel safe when I run. I even listen to them when I'm outside, just walking around, when I'm in New York City, when I'm walking around the house, just because I can still hear everything around me. And if you are an endurance runner, endurance athlete, and you don't have a pair already, I highly recommend checking it out because they are just phenomenal. Great sound quality. They have great transparency so that you're able to listen to your surroundings while you're out there, either running or biking, and great quality too. And I know right now they're doing a Memorial Day sale. So there's I think 20 to 30% off some of them. And if you use the code Mike Runs Marathons, you can save even more on top of that. So definitely go check them out. It's going to be Shocks with a Z, in case you are unaware. But folks, you know the drill. Grab some water, find your stride, and meet me in the conversation, because today's guest is someone I have been so excited to introduce you to. Today's guest is someone who represents what it looks like to be in the middle of the journey. So not someone that's looking back on it, pretending to have it all figured out, but actively building something through running in real time. If you follow kingparkergold2001, you'll see progression. You'll see the miles, the effort, the ups and downs, and the growth that comes from continuing to show up. It's not about perfection, it's about momentum. So I'm excited to talk about how running has shaped their identity, what he's learning along the way, and what it feels like to chase goals while still figuring out who you are as a runner. So let me bring in Coach Jay. Thank you so much for being here.
Mike, thank you for having me.
Of course. How's everything going?
Blessed, highly favored, taking life day by day. So
Love that. I love that. But yeah, like I said, I really appreciate you being on the podcast. I've been following you for a while. I've seen your posts and your story, and it's really inspiring. And as soon as I saw what you were sharing, I knew that you would be someone that would be perfect for this podcast and would really inspire others to help them on their road running journeys. So I'm excited to jump into a couple buckets of questions that I have that are tailored specifically towards you, so we can help learn more about you and explain just kind of your own running journey and your philosophy towards it.
sounds good. Thank you. Can't wait for it.
Of course. So let me start off with your running, the beginning of your running journey. So when you look back at your first few posts or your runs, what stands out to you now that you didn't realize at the time?
What stands out? One, the grammar police. I should have definitely took my time on writing a lot of these captions. Two, I think I was probably a little bit more ignorant than more polished that I am now on saying what I wanted versus what I was trying to explain. So I think there was a lot of growth. I think a lot of things were very aggressive, and especially how you want to read it, as opposed of now I think it's more relatable and inspiring versus making it feel like it's all this egotistic mindset of what I was chasing when I first started.
Yeah, why don't you take me back to when your running journey first started and became a part of your life? What pulled you into running?
What pulled me into running was the loss of my mother in high school. I lost my mom when I was 17. I was a junior in high school, and I played every single sport, but no sport felt fulfilled or actually a skill set where I felt like I've mastered. And when I lost my mom, I needed an outlet to help me, with the grieving process. I was 17, but I always felt truly as an adult because I felt so independent since middle school. And I'd never lost anyone in my life, and I didn't know how to process it. And I was already exploring so many different sports because me and my friends were saying that, to close out senior year, we want to play for different seasons of different teams so that way we can go to sports awards because you get a trophy for every award. So we were like, let's go play three different seasons for the school year so we can get awards. And I kind of just didn't feel the same. And I remember watching kids in the hallway of my high school running, and I didn't know what it was. I was already doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing by being at school at that time, but it just intrigued me. And and it was like, this is a track team. And I said, if this is a track team, why would you guys be running in the hallway? And I said, well, indoor, we're not able to run outside, so we run indoors. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I guess it sparked the interest of maybe wanting to see what this is because I've never ran track before. I've done track meets that were very, not little, but more of a school participation, and done it before, dib and dab, but never as a serious, as a collective, as a club. And I just remember running, I was a very popular kid in high school, but this team didn't care about who was popular or not. Yet alone, they didn't care about who was the kid who just lost his mom. They just cared about the skill set that I was bringing. And it felt great because everybody knew me in school. So everyone was asking me every day, like, how do you feel? I wouldn't be in school if my mom passed away. All these things that were said. So I just needed the distraction. And the track team was the only team that didn't talk about me, a kid who just lost his mom. They was just like, man, you're so fast in basketball sneakers. Man, you sure you never ran track before? And, then this whole, like, just this feeling I felt, and it felt like I was finding peace with losing my mom, and I felt closer to my mom because I would see her at my finish line of every race, or practice, and that's what made me become faster, because I felt like I was chasing what I said before, was chasing, getting closer to my mom, but I felt like God was telling me I was chasing purpose, and I didn't know that running was going to change my life the way it started to in 2009. Fast forward, now look where we at with running.
That is incredible. I love that. First, my condolences to losing your mom.
Thank you.
can only imagine what that feels like. And to find a group that didn't try to make that your entire personality about who you were and judge you off of that and kind of know you as that person, but to see you as kind of a collective whole of a person, and especially someone who's new to runner. I can't believe you ran in basketball shoes. That's incredible. But that brings me to my next question, because it sounds like it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like it was a natural thing that kind of came to you when you started. But what did those early runs look like versus what they look like now?
The early runs, they looked terrible form, major heel striker, didn't have the proper running shoes, but somehow, right, like I said, I ran with basketball sneakers first before I got my first trainers, and but but also at that time I learned that gear was not relevant about talent or hard work, because I really worked hard. I only was in part of the team for 2.5, maybe 3 months. I was a senior, so we're thinking about. I joined the end of indoor season at the one track meet indoor at the Armory, and then outdoor season started. So then we're thinking about March to May, and then that was my season, and I was done. But I worked hard to become something in that 3 months. Instead of looking like a rookie, I wanted to be the best runner on the team, which is we had a lot of great talents, but I wanted to be in that same level as them. So I just worked hard. I always was looking forward to practice every day. And it changed my persona, my personality a lot, where I stopped caring about things that I used to put so much emphasis on, like style or what I wear. Like I was just a kid that was eager to, can't wait for the school bell to ring so I can go to practice at 3 and practice hard, and and feel like, I don't know, I just felt alive. I just knew from there that so much was changing in me already as a senior, thinking about 3 months left to the school year. I think I had a whole different transformation, and I think that's when I knew that running was going to be a part of my life forever.
Now, was that the moment where you kind of realized, okay, I'm actually a runner, or did it happen later on, or how long did it take you to kind of feel like that?
I think it hit me when we had this one track meet outdoor season that it had bad weather conditions, and I think my coach had gave us the option to make it to the track meet, and then he then gave us the option of running the distance, and then we can go home. And I remember it was a distance I'd never done before. I can't remember. I just know it was considered long distance. And I remember saying, no, I didn't come this far not to do anything. And I was like, well, I know I only done the 4 and the 8 before, but I'm up for a challenge. And I remember doing it, and I beat the best distance kid we had in the team, which was JL at the time. And from there, people were like, oh my God, you beat JL. And I was like, yeah, that's right, I beat JL. And I was like, that's when I knew. I was like, yo, I am a runner. I was like, yeah, like it's here, because I was like, hear me, very new still, maybe 2 3 track meets in, never done nothing beyond the 800-meter, and then I just did this. Maybe it was a 5K. I don't know what it was, but I know it was long, but I did it, and I did better than I thought I could do, and from there I was like, yeah, like I am a runner. Like this is, it's definitely in me. I was like, this is it.
That is awesome. Now, at the beginning, was it harder to do the running itself or to feel like you belonged?
I think the running itself, I definitely felt like I belong immediately. I think I already blended in naturally. I already knew many people, but not to the capacity of what they did outside of school. But it was just the run because there was so much I needed to learn in a short period of time, right? I didn't own spikes. I just lost my mom. I was homeless a bit. I barely had any money, so I didn't have shoes yet. That's why I ran with basketball sneakers for a while. So it was just, trying to keep up with, thankfully you get uniform in high school, so you have that. But, it was just all these other little things that I just couldn't make no adjustments to. I just kind of had to work with what I had. I had the same shoes that I got for training was the same shoes that I raced in for the whole season.
Mm.
And that was, that's it. I had one shoe to do everything for me, to a point where I even wore it to school just because I was like, I don't care what I wear. I'm just going to wear this tracksuit and my trainers because at 3 o'clock, I'm going to go practice in the same shoes. And then if I have a track meet in the afternoon, I'm going to, less is more. So it was really just adjusting of trying to learn so much of track lingo, the distance, the meters. Even my first track meet indoor, I stopped short because I didn't know how many laps I was supposed to do. And if anybody who ever ran in the armory, you're not thinking, you're like you forget how many laps you're running. And I remember stopping short and my coach yelling at me saying, "What are you doing?" That's I thought it was finished. He's like, "No, you have another lap." And thankfully I was still able to keep back in it. But that's again, I'm so new to this. I never heard not heard, but I never paid attention to track and field before, so I was learning a lot in that 3 months. I know a lot more now, but even when I went to college, I said I barely know anything.
Hmm.
I said I only been on the track for 2 months, so it was definitely a lot to learn as a high school student at that time.
Now, after high school, how did running continue to be a part of your life?
Yeah, running continued to be part of my life. I went to a community college. I'm proud to say Queensboro, and I still had the desire to chase basketball, but I was actually much more talented in running than basketball, at least to the standards of like height and all that. But I was still trying to chase for it. And I remember my coach telling me that when I told him that I ran with Coach Damon, rest in peace, he, in Queens, he was a legendary running coach. So me coming to Queensboro, my coach was like, "Oh, that means you're great. You're this." He looked at my stats, but I told him, I'm still very new to this. And he said I would be the best in the team. And I didn't believe him. I did one practice, 5 miles. I've never ran 5 miles in my life. I quit the team. I told him I can't do it. This was long, hard. I didn't have the right shoes at that time, right? I didn't know I was gonna do running ever again in my life. And my coach just told me, he said, just do one meet, one cross country meet. He said, if you don't like it, then by all means don't join the team. But if you do, then you will be the best. And I remember doing that, and then I did well, and that's when I knew that hey, like because at that point now I'm chasing something far different. But also I was getting reminded of why I first started in high school, and it was the notion of not giving up. Yeah, you're this kid who lost his mom, but is that the narrative you want to continue in college, or do you want to be like, hey, a breakout star comes into this community college, becomes one of the best runners, and I just said, let me create my own narrative because this is a whole new school, so this is my whole opportunity to re-identify myself as a track and field runner, as opposed to in high school I was just this popular kid who then lost his mom. Now in college, I can be this kid who ran track and field who was actually really good.
And then once you got out of college, and I see you go by the name Coach Jay. How did you go from the kid who played or who ran in high school for 3 months to running in college to becoming a coach?
Yeah, it's a funny story. I'd stopped running for 3 years as an adult. You experience real life, adulthood, which is very scary and hard on your own. And I went through a lot. And I remember learning about Nike Run Club at 2014, 2015, and seeing what they were doing. And that reintroduced me back into running, but it was different. It wasn't track and field, it wasn't cross country, it was road running. And then, just continuing to be consistent, going at it. And then I started Then I got introduced to run culture, run clubs, run crews in maybe 2015. And I just was in love with like the fact that adults were I like creating like running gangs. I called it at the time. I was like, wow, there's running gangs in Brooklyn and Bronx and all this other stuff and Harlem and these territories. I thought it was really cool. I was like, wow, this is like warriors. One of these guys that I was running with, uh, I got introduced to the armory again. And they had this relay race, and then just fast forward, things went its way. We were able to do well in this relay. And I remember he got dropped off his team. And he got dropped off his team. And I told him that this was not a real thing what we created. It was just, playful. But he needed a home and a space. And then I said, I have to make something legit. And, fast forward, we're really, that's just the origin of GFTC. Sorry to get off track. But in 2021, when I became a father, I knew that I had this kind of different responsibility to create structure in my community. I was first being this, you know, not only this entrepreneur, but this activist, creating these running solidarity events where I was bringing people together to march and protest, but using running, for Breonna Taylor,
Mm.
Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and so forth. But now, the city was slowly opening up, and I felt like there was this urge to get back to, keep that as a center focus, but also allow people who want the discipline, the structure, the guide for running. And I had 40 plus people that were depending on me post COVID of like, where do I go? How do I run? And I was already doing it for so long that I didn't know. And then Brian Smooth Runner gave me the name Coach J when I started thinking about, I guess I am a coach because everyone was saying I was a coach. I didn't think I was a coach. I just thought I was a leader. And yeah, just kind of went with it that summer 2021 that I got my first client outside of my team that paid me to build a coaching plan. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm legit, and then I got certified to be an official coach as well. And from there, Coach J was officially born in 2021. But I never knew I was coaching for the last couple of years. It just became more official, and I was more prone to the title in 2021.
And so now you have this really large following, not just in Brooklyn, in New York, and you have clients and things like that, but you have a large following online. You have a very large online presence, and you document your process as it happens and things like that. You talk about your success. I saw your recent post about the United Half, which is just phenomenal. How many times have you run it now?
This is my sixth one now.
Damn, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Now, what's
thank you.
harder? Because I've only recently started posting at the beginning of last year, and maybe we might be able to agree on this. Is it the physical training, or is it being honest about where you're at and posting that information online?
I think it's about posting the things online. That's why it's so new to me because I was very much a private person with training, but I had to adapt and evolve and let more people inside. A lot of my training was never posted. I never even edit my Stravas. It would just say afternoon, morning runs. I never put my workouts, right? I was just so private. And you would only see my results of when I raced. You never knew about the process of what I did to get there. And but I knew that we're in different times now, and everybody wants to be a part of the progress and watch it so they can feel closer to you but also relatable. And I think that's the hardest thing about it. It's remembering to document this or that time or posting. So I've been more efficient with it, but it's always an opportunity, harder than the training. But I make time to, like, I do a thing where I only get this much time into documenting and writing it out as opposed of more of the training, because the training to me is the more important part. But I just try to make sure that I give a little piece of it as much as I can. So probably just the online and just really sharing so much of it. I remember I used to be a runner who just ran with a G-Shock watch, and the only social media was Facebook and Instagram. But at that time, there was very much you just documenting what food you ate. No one cared about anything else. So it's so different now that you gotta give a whole breakdown But I've gotten better, and I've been very much inspired by a lot of people who prioritize that. I just see that as a no opportunity for me to grow, because I think people like to see like, hey, I'm an everyday person who is a dad, who does this, who does that, who just finds the 24 hours within that time to just give an hour commitment. And a lot of people always say like it's really helpful to know like to see someone else going through the same things, same struggles, but figuring out how to break those barriers and show up for race day. So
Absolutely. I think it's so important to showcase the progress that gets to the race day because there's so many people who only post when they finish a marathon, they finish a half marathon or some other race, and they talk about their PRs, they talk about their successes, but they don't talk about, like, there are many times where I will post around and I'll say, I hated this. I didn't want to do
yeah,
this. I wanted to just quit and go home, or I just wanted to stop my treadmill. And to be able to post something like that, I've had so many people who have related to that more than hitting my PB at my races.
yeah,
I think it's in today's society, I think where social media is all about the flashy stuff and about the success, we don't have as many people, I think, posting about the struggles that can come leading up to that success, which I think is so important when it comes to running specifically. Now, because of what you've posted and things like that, showing the progress, is there any story that comes to mind about anybody who's reached out to you saying, what you've posted has helped them or inspired them?
man. There's so many, honestly, and I'm very humbled and flattered the amount of DMs and messages or random people coming up to me. There's just I think I can go with the more recent one that is ingrained to me, that my team got to witness. Last weekend, United half, after I raced, I came back to my cheer zone with GFTC, and there was this mom that's been following me for a while. I know her son. Me and her son have a very mutual. We always talk online about running, but also sneakers. We're both big sneaker heads, and we talk a lot. And his mom started following me, but I don't think I ever met his mom officially in person. She started running. They done races together, which is beautiful. And I got to finally meet her in person at the United Half, and she came to the cheer zone, and she was like, "Hey, I don't know if you know me, but I've been following you on Instagram." And I was like, "No, I know exactly who you are." She's like, "I'm Glenn's mom, and I just want to tell you you're so inspiring what you do." Just saying so. This is mid in the race, mile 11, and she's telling me all these nice things, and we're having this moment and this long hug, and I don't want to get emotional, but it felt like I was hugging my mom. It was someone who came to me and embraced me and just talked about what she sees online and how proud she is and happy, and such a great father, just all from what she sees online. But it just felt like when I hugged her, I felt like it was my mom talking to me,
Mhm.
and it was my mom telling me, hey, like, look at all the things that you're doing, how much lives you're changing. To me, I didn't even want to let her go. It just felt familiar, and it felt like my mom was talking to her. So I think that was probably the greatest feeling that I could remember. More importantly, that I probably won't forget, because I felt like my mom was talking to me at the cheer zone. So shout out to Glenn's mom, and I thank her, and I'm happy. Thank you, Richard, and my team for capturing that moment, because you just don't get to see things like that happen, and how it happened, and so random and organic. It was beautiful. So I appreciate that, seriously.
I love that. It's so crazy how, I mean, for me, it feels like a lot of times like I'm just posting and shouting into the void of like, this is my journey, this is what I'm going through, these are the issues that I have. And to have somebody just randomly message you or reach out to you and say something that you didn't even think about, or somebody you may have never spoken to that follows you, just saying that you inspire them is so impactful to your own running journey. I mean, I never thought that I would have people reach out to me and say things like that. It's funny, you talk about a small running world just in general and impacting people. I did a small, I want to say like kind of a podcast thing last year when the Tokyo Marathon happened. I interviewed a couple people who ran the race and just wanted to get their idea of how it went and what they thought about it. And then I interviewed this one woman, and when I was in New York City last year for the New York City Marathon, I was in the Lower East Side of all places, going to some Italian restaurant that I loved the night before the marathon. And I'm walking down the street, and this woman just yells out, "Mike runs marathons." And I was just like, what's going on? And it was one of the women that I interviewed. We had never actually met, and she just saw me on the street, and she was like, "Can we take a picture together?" And I was like, "What is happening?" I was with my best friend and my wife, and she left, and they both were like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "This is insane." But yeah, to be able to, I mean, this is why we do it. This is why we post, like, to inspire others and to be able to help them and to show them what they're capable of, because we've gone through so many things ourselves, and running has helped us in so many different ways to get through them, that if we can just help one person, that's all that matters. Now, on the flip side, we talked about how you've inspired others and how others have reached out to you. Has there been a moment on your page where you've kind of been able to capture how far you've come since the beginnings of your account and the beginnings of your own running journey?
Yeah, I think, right, because I'm a big person who kind of, my girlfriend will always say, like, I get stuck. I always constantly look at my old photos, and thankfully, shout out to iCloud and iPhones. I have my phone for over a decade, so I have over a decade of things documented on my phone. So I get to really, right, and I've been in this road running world for now 11, 12 years, so I have all of it still. So I think when I'm creating this whole new thing that I've been doing, when I'm like looking back, I'm grateful to say a lot of these races I ran 10 years ago and then have all those documentations of it. I think when I get to look back, I get stuck and I'm like, wow, like, who was this kid? Like, how did this kid go from here? And I clown myself, when I tell my team about, like, when I get bummed out about certain times, I was like, look, speaking of United Half, my first United Half, 2015. All right, I'm 25 years old, still raging and going to like underground concerts. And I go from doing that to running my first official United Half. I run 135 with 7-inch running shorts, cord headphones, no dreads, no idea, freezing, no gloves, running through the West Side Highway with a Nike watch. To now, fast forward 11 years later, I have a whole curated cheer zone. I got a brand sponsored top and bottom. I'm getting product seeded to me. I look way more flashier, way more thin, more lighter, and I'm running 10 times faster than I used to run before. And I look at it, I'm like, wow, like look at the evolution of who I am, right? Like I have this photo from GNP he took of me, George, shout out to George. His whole thing is black and white that he took of me in 2015. And I looked at a photo that Tracy, who's a phenomenal female photographer, she took a picture of me at Hustle, Runs, Cheer Zone, and you just see the difference, even the way my form looked, but also the acknowledgement. I think with George, I was like frozen with my thumb up like this. And then Tracy, I'm with the Jalen Brunson, 3 fingers to my face. And I just like, I look at those photos, I'm like, that's literally 11 years apart. And look how much is different in that black and white photo. So to me, I'm just like, I'm just super blessed. And I'm happy that I came from humble beginnings. I always tell people that I'm happy I started the 135 versus starting at 115, because then there would have been a hard decade of trying to get so much better, and maybe that would have already been my peak at that time. I think the fact that of 10 years later that I got that significant fast, and to be consistent for 11 years is the hardest thing, right? That's like any professional athlete to still be the top of the top on, however you look at when you first start to where you are now. It's remarkable. So I'm just so impressed and amazed that half the things I haven't done better or great in my life, and that's just me being a hard critic. But one thing I can say is like running has been probably in a top tier thing that I've gotten better every single year at, more
I
than
love
anything.
looking at past pictures of me from not just running, but before I started running, because running has just drastically changed also how I look. But I love looking at old photos of my favorite thing actually in 2019. That's when I did my first set of races for New York Road Runners, and I remember doing the Bronx 10K or the Bronx 10 mile, and there's a picture of me looking exhausted in front of the photographer. I've got my hands out like this, doing a peace signs, and my running form is terrible. I'm wearing awful. I'm wearing like basketball shorts because I didn't know how to dress back then when it came to running. Luckily, they gave me the shirt, so I was wearing the shirt. I ran the race for the first time in 5 years last year. And I said to myself, as soon as I see that photographer in the same spot, I'm going to do the same picture,
The
and
same.
I'm going to put them side by side and see what they look like. And they just look so drastically different.
That's super cool. I gotta see that picture.
Yeah, it's so funny to see the difference when you post the pictures. If you go to my profile, there's a picture I always post from my first New York City marathon. My God, it's awful. I'm crying. My body looks like it's broken, and I love sharing it because so many people only post like the good pictures, like the posing
Yeah.
ones, the pointing, the hand signs, and everything. This is me just like completely broken and sobbing, and it's so funny to share because I remind people because I have so many people ask me like, "Do you think I can do XYZ for my first marathon? Can I run this pace? Can I do that?" And I say, "Listen, just go out and enjoy your first marathon because you don't know what's going to happen. You're brand new to this type of sport, and anything can happen. So just go out there, and once you finish, then you come up with a plan for your next one because you're going to learn so much from it."
Exactly.
But yeah, it's always funny to look at that because I went in with a plan, and the whole plan just exploded like when I got to like mile 10. But I want to jump to probably the biggest word that's always on our minds as runners, especially with social media now, which is comparison. We have so many runners around us that are faster, more fit, they have more sponsors than us, they have all of these other things. And it's really easy to compare yourself to those runners. When you experience that, because you are a faster runner than some others would be, say you see someone who's faster, someone more experienced, how do you keep that from messing with your own confidence?
I like to think of it as I always say that we're all in our own lanes. Basketball is always one of my biggest sports that I reference. Hip hop itself, I think of it like I'm Jay Z, this person's Nas, this person's Tupac, Biggie, right? Or just the era of when everyone was the best of the best and they compared it. But you can't compare them because we all are the best to different eyes. And you know what you perfect is your craft, but also people have a different challenges, different things that they work in their life that can't compare to others. And I embrace those who are better than me because I only want to be around people that are better than me. So that helps me get better. And I can't always be the best in the room. So I just look at that as a more rewarding. I practice on Tuesdays in the morning with a group we call Black Distance, where it's myself, Yasif, Nigel, Chris Duche, Malcolm, and a whole bunch of this different amazing, black distance runners that are all better than me, all had succeeded better times than me in the recent time. But I love going there and I love training with them because it also helps me get better and it found my joy back to running because that's just how it's gonna be. And when people compare, like, oh, this person's faster than you, everybody has his day. Not every race I'm gonna put up numbers. There's races that I'll super bomb and they will bomb, and everybody has their days. So I tell people you can't compare. I think we all live different lives. I'm a father. One or so may not be a father. One is an entrepreneur. One works the 9 to 5. One is married. One is not married. There's so much different things in our lives as adults that already make things challenging. So you can't really compare the same 24 hours.
Hmm.
Because we just all prioritize different things. Like I don't have my schedule is more. I have a lot more freedom, but it's more of never clocking in. I'm an entrepreneur, so I work 24 hours. I have to source my days and my income. I don't get paid monthly. I have to do a lot more other things that are more tiring than most people who have a set job that they go to work, do these, do projects, and then be about right. I have to do so much other things, so I can never. I can't. People can't compare their progress to my progress, or I don't compare mine to anyone else. I just say that we all work just as hard as we can to our abilities, and when it comes to that, when it's said is done, it's said and done. But I don't compare myself. I'm just happy to be in the same Mount Rushmore as a lot of talented people that I'm around, and I only want people that I train to become their own best, to hit their own Mount Rushmore, or be on mine, or be better than me. Honestly, I
Hmm.
just want people to be their best version of themselves, and knowing that I'm always my best when I'm out there. So that's how I look at my comparison, or I'm just more inspired by my competitors, whether they're the same level, better than me, or trying to get better than me. I'm all for it.
That is so important. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head where every single person's running journey is unique to them. And to compare yourself to someone else, for example, say you're getting started this week, or this month. You completed your first week of runs, your first month of runs, and it's been really difficult. You can't compare yourself to someone who's been running for 10 years, because their entire focus on training, their entire ability to run is completely different than yours. But I guarantee you, when I started, I was just like them. I was just like everybody else who started out struggling and trying to put one foot in front of the other. And to try to compare yourself to somebody, it's apples and oranges. Because you might have someone who is just gifted at running, and you could have someone like I didn't start running until I was 30. And I had never done sports before. So this is like the only sport I've really ever done. And I never considered myself a sports person ever. And so to be able to do this, it took a lot of perseverance and resilience to keep going because I just didn't have this background. And I had to keep reminding myself of that because I would go do races. I would go out and run. I was afraid to run outside for like the first 6 to 8 months of my running journey. I ran in the treadmill because I was afraid I was going to be judged. I was afraid that other people would see like my body type and then they would, make fun of me or judge me, and they would make fun of my pace and things like that. So, and it really sucked because, living in New York City, you have so many great places to run. You got Central
Yeah.
Park, West Side Highway, Prospect Park. You have so many places all around the city. And I was afraid to do that. And finally, after my first race, I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing this. And it made me realize as soon as I started running, everyone is focused on their own running journey. No one's looking at me. Nobody's judging me. Nobody's like worried about me. The only person who's worried about me is me. And
Yeah.
so I started to just kind of calm down from that. But I love what you said about being inspired by people that are, either, at your level or better than you, because it helps you chase a goal for yourself. And this kind of goes to my next question, which is, so at this point, with your running journey, do you feel like you're chasing a version of yourself or are you chasing some sort of standard?
I'm chasing a version of myself, I would say, because in the last couple of years, I always made a notion of, is this the year I'm gonna be competitive, or this is gonna be the year I'm more focused on coaching? Because I think you can't do both. I think that's why a lot of run coaches are not as active. I think it's a hard focus if you're focusing so much on your goals and then trying to help 10 or more clients that are trying to reach their goals, and or if you're leading a group. And for me, I just want to show people that I think that when they look at my journey, they say, Jerry has hit rock bottom in running. I went from a 242 marathoner to then 1 year running 256, right? I went from a 116 marathoner to not even being able to break 123, right? I've had rock bottom years, but all because 1 year was focusing on the other. So to me, is this year for me is a freedom year where I just want to be able to just enjoy the sport more than I ever have before. And I think that's why I'm not putting time or pressure on things there's nothing I'm really chasing but just the fun of the sport. And I think that's been lost for me for a bit of time because of social media and running boom and how everyone perceives and looks at running, where it made me lose of what mattered to me. So I needed to take a step back to really find new enjoyment. And I think I tell people running is like a relationship. When you fall in love with someone, that's that hardest love. But then to continue to be in love with them, you have to find new versions of yourself to fall in love with, because
Mm.
we all change in our relationship. So not everything is the same of when we had that honeymoon stage when we met the first year. Now we're 5 years in, now we live together. But who I was a year one is not who I am year five. So you need to find, you look at your partner and see new ways to fall in love with them. And I think that was the same for me with running. So this year is just more about just chasing the freedom of it. And I think so far for the first 3 months, I really have. Like I'm having a blast.
Hmm.
I'm probably having the most fun that I had in a long time. And it's a bonus when you run well and you race well. but I'm not bummed, you know. I ran Miami in January and I bombed and I was happy about it. You know, I
Hmm.
didn't not post that K, you know, I was like, you just started getting back to running. You ran in humidity, but you were happy. I stopped at the chair zone and shout out to BRC and embrace it. I was like, man, like, it's just so good to see you guys. That's what I had that moment. I was like, man, like this is really tough. And I posted that and I felt like that was okay because I said these times don't define me because fast forward, look what I did in United. And these are the things that all those things, even if I bombed United, I would have not cared. I would be like, wow, like I got to race through Times Square again and do this in a fashionable way. So to me, it's just about just chasing this freedom of just enjoying running again. And I think I've been really have been enjoying running again. So I'm really grateful for that.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Now, speaking of your races, I want to talk about some breakthrough moments with those races because we all have them. Good races, bad races. I can probably count more of the bad races than the good races for me in terms of what I've gone through. Because as much as people like to say that running is just putting one foot in front of the other, a lot of times when you run these longer distance, it's
It's
an
not.
art. It's an art and a science. You got to balance so many things at the same time.
Yeah.
What has been your kind of chip moment so far? It's like the run or the race that like really surprised you.
Surprised me in a good way or a bad way?
Let's go with the good way.
I think 2023, I was desperately chasing trying to break 16 minutes at a 5K. And shout out to my business partner and my guru, Troy, who anything he says, does words just manifest to happen. He said that I would break 16, and he knew how much I badly wanted my son to just be at my races. I didn't get many of those opportunities, so he made sure to have my son at my race when I was chasing this. But the hardest part of it, I was doing this in the summertime, doing the Prospect Park series, which is after 6 o'clock, talking about 85 degrees, talking about Prospect Park to try to achieve such a hard time like that. But he believed in me. And I remember, the week before I came, like, it's every other week in the summer, I came short, but maybe not too far, but no, I was far. I think I ran like maybe 16:20 or 16:16, something like that. I don't know. But I just remember I was like, Troy's here. He got my son. It's one of the hottest days of the summer. But he said I can do it, so it's gonna happen. And I remember the one Wednesday I'm there, it's these high school or college students who obviously run sub 15 like it's nothing.
Hmm.
They're there at the line, right? And obviously, you can just never judge a book by its cover. You just never know, right? But I remember that race, like running my heart out and probably ran my fastest 5K and my fastest split at the last mile. And I saw that clock and I couldn't believe that it said 15, I think 54, I think at that day. And when I crossed that line, I literally just fell into my son. And I think there's a video, I'm just like this, falling to my son. And I just couldn't believe that I did it. I was like, I finally broke 16 minutes at a 5K. And I was just like, I in shock. I just, you just one of those things you just like, "Oh, I can never get there. I'm getting older. I'm not in college. I'm not in high school, right? These are the times that they are already achieving for many years of experience. I'm a road runner. I'm a long distance runner. So 5Ks are not much of a thing that you train for. It's more halves and fulls. But here I am in the best shape of my life from that year. And I finally broke 16 minutes. And it was literally the greatest race performance for me and in Prospect Park, which became my future home. Now it's my backyard. So I just to this day I'm always in shock because I never did it again. I never broke 16 minutes again. But I don't even care. I said, hey, it's on the resume. It happened. And I was like, I rather, it's one of those things where it's like Kobe Bryant scoring 81 points. You score 81 points, you don't have to score 81 ever again. You did
Hmm.
it. It's there for you. And I think for me, that's one of those races where I'm like, man, it don't matter what time I ever run a 5K. The fact that I can say I broke 16 minutes and a 5K in all those conditions in Prospect Park, it means everything to me. So this is one of many. I have a lot, but that one will always stand out for me.
I love that because you expect during a question like this that people would talk about. You talked about the time, being really surprised by it, not being able to hit it ever since, and I feel you on that because there's a time that I hit for my 5K recently that I don't know if I'll ever be able to break. But to talk about how you made that promise to your son believed in you, and that's what pushed you to get to the finish line and to fall into their arms and to be like, you were right. And you believed in me and I was able to do this because of that is so much more powerful than just being like, yeah, I was finally able to break a 3 hour marathon. Like
Yeah.
that, it's so much more powerful. It has so much emphasis behind it of just so much love and belief from somebody who has watched you with your own running journey. And it's so easy for us to doubt ourselves when it comes to this. And to have somebody who has watched you continuously, who is inspired by you, be like, you know what, Dad, you got this. You might not think it, but I've seen you and you got this. I got chills right now just thinking about it because I can only imagine what that must have felt like. Now, I want to talk about a tough run. It could be recent, it could be an older run that you've done. It may not have looked like impressive on paper, like a marathon or a half marathon or what have you, but or a great time, but it mattered to you. Is there any race that stands out for you?
Oof. I would probably say there's a lot. I would probably say you just look back and you realize how much races you do, and you're like, oh, I don't race a lot. And then you're like, no, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I just looked on the New York Roadrunners website the other day and I've almost run 100 races with them. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. I think maybe night at the Armory a year ago, I think running the mile race and completely bombing it at the Armory race is racing an indoor track at this age is probably the hardest thing to do, especially if you try to rekindle that youth and wear spike shoes, which has very minimum cushioning and hurt the feet so much. I did that because it's a tradition for GFTC. That's where we were born in the Armory 10 years ago. So we do it every year, but there's only a mile race and then a relay, and I like to do the mile as a warm up, which is not a warm up. It's actually death. But yeah, I remember running it, and I've ran amazing mile races there. I think my best time there is 4:36. I ran this race barely breaking five. I think I ran like 5:03 or 5:01, and I led the race. And then the last 400 I bombed it and let like eight people pass me, and I remember like fighting for my life to cross that finish line, and I just was like, who cares? Like, this was just fun to say. Like, in my mid 30s or early 30s, I should say, I ran a mile race, and I was like, well, we just know eventually what's gonna go downhill from here, right? And obviously my team was very proud of me and excited to see me race, and I remember not even harping on it. I was just like, man, like, who cares? I was like, you can't be great forever. I remember just thinking about how many times the best of the best athletes have folded, thinking about Elliot Kipchoge in Boston Marathon
Mhm.
or his DNF and at the Olympics. That you just never gonna always be who you used to be, and you have to be okay with it.
Yeah,
And I remember one of those things was like, I'm okay with being just here, you know. So if anything, that now opens up the door for people to think, "Wow, I can beat Coach J," and I'm like, "Good. You should always say that you could beat me. I'm not unbeatable. I'm not Floyd Mayweather. I'm not undefeated. I can be beaten." And I think from there it was like, yo, he's getting older, but also I was like, I just don't care the same.
mm,
I was okay with the 5:02 or 5:03 performance. And I just remember, I was like, I think I wrote a caption about it. And I was like, we get to a point in our lives where we're okay of not performing at our best as long as we feel good crossing the finish line. And I felt good crossing the finish line.
that's a great example. I love that, especially with the fact that you led for most of it, which,
Yeah.
as somebody who doesn't usually run track now, is a really good accomplishment. And still, your time is amazing. I could only hope that I could run a 502, 501. My fastest mile was, I think, like 5:53 or something, and I finished that mile and I thought I was going to die. So that's incredible.
Great. That's great, man. Honestly, a mile is hard. So sub 6, sub 7. We're not built to race 1 miles anymore at this age and stage of our lives. So I tell people all the time, take it. Like as long as it's faster than what you would normally do in one split of like a 8K or 10, take it. It's a win.
Absolutely.
Our bodies don't know what a mile is. We just
Yes.
we know what a 21K is, but a mile, we don't know how to run that.
Hmm. Completely agree with you on that. Now, I want to go back to the very beginnings of your running journey. You know, the guy who's running in basketball shoes, who's doesn't know anything about running form and stuff like that. There's people that are there right now, right? You're a very, very fast runner now, and you have a lot of accomplishments when it comes to your speed. But I know that you didn't start that way, and you had to build your way up. So there's people that are back at the beginning. What would you tell them to focus on first?
I would say focus on being a student. When I say that, it's so much to learn, and how you learn is by seeking guide, asking for help. But really, I'm a visual learner, so how I learned a lot of things, I had to watch it, visually. I had to watch a lot of videos of myself, of my form. I looked at a lot of race day pictures, and it was always heel strike, and I would try to tell myself like, how do you prepare yourself to know when a photographer is here or there, or how to control your arms. And I watched a lot of myself first, and then I also just looked at my peers, and seeked help from past coaches that helped me with my form. And I just tell people, be a student, ask questions. We have all the access more than anything now, right? We have YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, right? There's influencers telling you about run forms and all that, but also professionals. Go to prehab. They can do a run analysis and
Hmm.
help you really finish line physical therapy, custom performance. There's a lot of center focuses that help athletes on their stride, recovery, in Queens. You can do a VO2 testing. There's a lot of science with running that people don't realize. And honestly, that can be you can probably skip 1,000 steps if you just go to one of those places and destinations, and they'll help out your form. You can really see the science behind of your striking, your landing, your overuse of arm, your control, and your cadence. And then I also invest in all those things, but also a running coach who can help you. One-on-one sessions. You can hire me, Coach Jay, or Coach Joe Shane, or any run coaches in the city or virtual that are very educated and aware of how to help proper form and technique. But I also say those things take time, but be patient with it, honestly. Like, again, a lot of these resources to look into, but then if you feel like you don't have as much as that time, find a coach who can help you on one-on-one sessions and really work on those basics. And it takes time. My form took a long time to get
Hmm.
better at. It's not, I wouldn't say it's the best form, but I think it looks best when it needs to, more or less. And I'm still learning. There's still a lot of, I see, I'm bow legged, and a lot of times one of my legs tends to collapse. So it looks like it kind of like crookeds this way sometimes. That's just overuse of how much lack of strength that I'm doing on my hips. So there's a lot of things that I know that I can be better at. That, again, being a student and learning. So I just tell people, go to all your resources. All those names I just said, Google them, reach out, benefit, tell them Coach J sent you. It's never a hard thing to say from references, but yeah, just really take all that in and learn from professionals. And
Hmm.
whether it's a coach, I know I was rambling, but a coach, or one of these aides and guides of who have the establishment that can help you, because I've went to all of them, and little by little they helped me. And I worked at a running specialty store for a very long time, and people like Jerry Faulkner, who was a very big help in my early running development, to the people that I was able to be supported by. So yeah.
I completely agree with you. That's the number one thing that I always recommend to people. If they come to me with, hey, what shoe should I buy? Or, even how should I get started with running? I don't even answer any of those questions. I say, go to a running store, get your feet scanned, understand your ankles, know what true size you are, and know from there what type of shoe you need to get. And that I can give you recommendations, but each person's use of the shoe is going to be different and what it feels like on you. So what might look or feel really nice on me might not feel nice on you. And I've had that issue too. I have too many shoes that I bought because people recommended them. They don't work for me. I wore them like once or twice and they just sit there now, and then they end up getting recycled. So yes, the beautiful thing too with today's day and age is we are spoiled with the amount of knowledge that's online, because there's so many videos, there's so many YouTubers, there's so many PTs, there's so many people that have these degrees that make videos that explain things to you very easily. Because before, I can't tell you the amount of running books I bought and tried to read, and the workbooks and everything, and they go a long way in a certain way, but I'm also a visual learner, so being able to watch those videos is super, super helpful. So that's a great piece of advice for somebody. Now, for for that person that is just, they're waiting until they feel, let's say, quote unquote, ready to call themselves a runner, what would you say to them?
I would say, first of all, I tell people when you do something, you are that. You are that no matter what. Hold on. What's up, Jax? What you need? Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of people try to, belittle themselves about those titles because what they envision or what they think the definition of a runner is not them because they don't look or have this certain pace. But a runner, the definition of a runner is someone who runs. So if you run, you are a runner. So embrace that, because I tell people when you go to your family reunion, when you sit down on that table, you're going to look and notice that you might be the only person in your family that runs, the only person in your old college group that runs. Friends outside of running, you might be the only one, and guess what? They look at you as mighty high. Oh my God, you run what? Did you win the marathon yesterday? That's what it is, because they have no knowledge of it. So why would you, belittle yourself to not call yourself a runner? They think you're a runner because they're not running a 5K. To them, a 5K might be 5 miles, right? Everything to them they don't know, so they look at you. So yeah, you could be in a space with a whole bunch of people who look different, who run this way, but embrace it. You are a runner. If you started running, you are a runner. Whether you run 5 miles a week to 20 miles a week, you are indeed a runner. So really take that to a core. You don't have to put it in your bio, put it in your name, but if that's what you already do, embrace it. Say, yeah, I am a runner. And I think it's a confidence thing. Like, you need to be confident. It's one of those things, like any profession in life. It's, if that's just what you do, then you are that. If you're a banker, you work at a bank, you are a banker. If you do this, right, just embrace who those titles are, whether it's a self-fulfilled title or something that someone else gives you, but that's what you are. So run with it. No pun intended.
I love that. I love that. Now, this next section of questions that I have, this is what I call the hot seat. These are just quick, rapid fire questions. Give me top of mind answers for whatever you think is the answer that connects with you the most. So, trail or road?
Road.
What is your favorite running shoe brand right now?
Adidas.
Do you prefer early runs or late runs?
Early runs.
I probably know the answer to this, but long runs, solo or with others?
Solo.
Actually, I thought it was going to be the opposite. What is your favorite post-marathon meal?
Ooh, anything unhealthy that I had to cut off. So, I don't. It gotta just be. I just want everything. I'll eat anything, literally anything, as long as it's a lot of calories. I want everything.
What did you get after the United Half?
Dallas BBQ is with my team.
No,
We talked about the origin of Dallas BBQs. If you're a true New Yorker, you know the staple. So we went to Dallas BBQs. I didn't get the sticky wings like I wanted, but I'm still happy that I got the food and the drink. I don't drink anymore, but we made a pact that we were gonna do the big nostalgic drinks.
and the giant margaritas, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So I had that. So Dallas BBQ. So shout out to GFTC for that.
Nice, I love that. On your easy runs, do you prefer music, podcasts, or silence?
Silence.
Silence. And what is the one piece of running gear that you can't live without, and you can't say your watch? Or, no, I'm sorry, you can't say your shoes.
One piece of running that I can't live without. Does a phone count? Yeah, probably my phone.
You use that for runs?
I use it for Honestly, just everything. I think just more importantly now that I have to do content all the time and
Mm,
so I can't leave my house without it. Like it has even my races like, unless it's a 5K race, but anything long I always have to have my phone for some kind of apparent reason. But if not that, I would say more or less probably a hat. I like to wear a hat or some kind of headwear always at runs.
yeah.
And I wear it until it kind of flies away or anything like that. So I'm trying. 9 out of 10, I would love to have like some kind of headwear always, whether it's a headband or a beanie or
Mm.
a running cap.
It's funny. I've never really recorded myself at races, and so I finally had to buy a camera because I was like, you know what? I feel like if I want to make content saying I'm a marathon runner, I should probably show the
So
marathon while I'm running it. So I was like, okay. So I bought a little DJI camera to carry with me when I go for my races now. It's really weird to hold something while I'm running, like a camera, because I feel like people are like, oh, it's this guy over here recording his race like everybody
yeah,
else. But yeah, it's
I used to be somewhat of a hater, but I embrace it. I tell people, man, to me, I'm like, just think, you losing to the person that's recording. That gotta hit you so harder. I was like, this person has to hold this steady and stable, and
mhm.
they're recording and they're still beating you at a race. So I was like, kudos to that person. I just watched a video of this gentleman. I think he was like goes to run like sub 75 for United, algorithm randomly pop up. And then I watched it, but not closely enough. And I found out I was in his video and he beat me while recording the whole race.
Wow.
And I don't know where I saw, maybe I was in the video of him doing the FDR, but I was like, man, if I would have known, because I'm over here like, man, I love the fact that no one's recording the race. Like we're all just here in the knit grit. But then there's a video of a guy running sub 75 recording the whole thing and he beat me. So I was like, kudos to that kid. I mean, that's very impressive because I know I couldn't take my phone out to
Mhm.
save my life for that race. I'm always fumbling and juggling things in my pocket, trying to grab gels, and so
Yeah.
so
The
yeah.
amount of things that I've dropped during my races is insane. Now, do you have a dream race?
Yes, my dream race is Tokyo Marathon.
It's beautiful. It's
Yeah,
amazing. It's
Tokyo
amazing.
Marathon will be, and also one of the Disney series. I
Mm.
would love to do that with my girlfriend. So definitely those two things. And I'm a huge anime fan, so I just want to go to Tokyo. So I think if I get to run a marathon, and it's also my last star too, everything will be hitting the nail if I've gone to Tokyo. So but I'm not putting pressure on that to happen. I'll just let it happen how it's supposed to happen. But
Yeah.
Tokyo is the dream for sure.
You should try to do it next year because it's going to be the 20th anniversary.
That's what me and my client Kelly have spoke about. So God willing, and it all works out because a lot of changing events are gonna happen this year for me. So if I could bring my family with me, which is my biggest goal, if I could bring my family to witness me achieving my 6 star, I think I want to have that Jordan moment when he won his first NBA championship. That's how I want to
Mm.
feel when I get made my last 6 star, and I want my son, and my family to be there with me at that finish line. Just so hopefully we'll see. 20th anniversary. If anybody from Abbott is listening, running influencers, anyone, if you want to make my dream come true, I have a compelling essay to write. Let me know. Make it happen for me, 2027.
I ran it last year and the year before. Only time reason I didn't get to run it this year is because we had our baby.
Okay.
But the goal is to do it next year because I really want her to. I want my daughter to go to
See,
Tokyo.
exactly. Okay.
It's just
Listen, let's do
such an
it.
incredible place. And if you get to go, man, we got to meet up.
Yes, we will. We will definitely will. We'll bring our family. We'll do it all. It's
Yeah.
gonna happen. We're
And
gonna.
when you I'm gonna say when you get there, if you I would recommend staying in Akihabara.
Okay.
That's like the anime video game area. So like every street is like arcades, like it's incredible. We stayed there for the last 2 years, and it's wonderful. There's just so much stuff going on. I can't speak highly enough about Tokyo. I love the city. Like I love video games. I grew up on anime.
Yeah.
I love the technology and everything. It's funny. My wife, she was like, I don't really want to go to Tokyo, but I guess I'll go. We were there for about 15 minutes, and she was like, I love this so much. But yeah, it's wonderful. Now, if you run the Tokyo Marathon next year. If you could run it with anybody in the world, who would you want to run it with?
Well, I wish my son could run marathons, but he'll be 6 years old. So I would say, honestly, maybe one of my teammates. I would love to experience that with one of my teammates, whether it be like a Joy or a Sherlock, or a Carolina or a Kim, or even my client now, Soy, who's really fast. Because then me and him would run a really fast one. Yeah, so definitely somebody from our team for sure. That would, if it couldn't be my son, I would definitely love that experience. Or honestly, maybe Chris Chung because he's a great content creator and he'll
Hmm,
record a lot of great content of me. And I actually like Chris a lot too. So those would be my people that
nice.
I could, if I could, I would choose one of them.
Nice, nice. I love that. This next portion, these are things that I'm collecting from everybody that I interview so I can share with other people. The first is what I call the motivation library. If you could pick one quote, a mantra, or a line that gets you through the tough miles, what would it be?
Man, and I'm a quote book too. That's crazy. Wow. The man who comes up with things every day is blanking out. I would, damn. Okay, I got it. All right, my quote would to be is that I'm thinking about the MJ quote about failure. More or less, it's about failing all the time. Probably embracing failing all the time because you'll know how to win when you finally pass. Or I think it's or is it failure is not trying. I think that's what it is.
Hmm.
And you fail more than when you don't try at all, something of that nature. But there's a big MJ quote that they reopened the box for a recent ad. But that's one of my things about failing. So it's more about trying because if you don't try, then you fail.
Hmm.
Something of that nature. I apologize, I didn't get it the way I should have. But
No, you're fine. Is it the I've missed the 9,000 shots in my career?
yes, exactly, right. And then in the end, he talks about like, if he didn't fail, he wouldn't know how to succeed or something like that. Like you fail 100 times, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that quote. That's such a good quote for anybody when it comes to trying to accomplish anything or try to progress in whatever you're trying to learn to master. Now, I want to picture yourself, you're running Tokyo next year, you're going to get your 6 star, you're going to get your medal. You see the finish line. What song is blasting through your headphones?
Oh, probably is definitely Jay-Z Encore slash Numb, the version with him in Linkin Park. I think that would probably be the song because it definitely would feel like I feel like I want it to feel like I'm performing at this biggest stage and
Mhm.
getting a round of applause for accomplishing the accomplishment.
I
So
love
yeah,
that song. Yeah, I have that on my running playlist. It is a banger. Like it
yeah,
gets you pumped.
yeah, exactly. So definitely that.
That is a good song. Now, before we wrap up, I want to kind of bring it back to the heart of this podcast. You know, what running really means to you. And so I have two final questions. What has running given you that you didn't expect when you first started?
Running has given me purpose. When I said it right, running when I was starting off was something to help me with the grieving process. Now, fast forward in life, it's giving me purpose. It's giving me something to continue to push forward on. My whole life is now running. You know, I get and it doesn't feel like work. I get to mentor and coach dozens of athletes, individuals, groups. Running has taken me across the world. Running has allowed me to meet my life partner. Running has given me all that I have. I have a roof over my head because of running. I have clothes on my back because of running. My son has all this because of running. My son was born in a world where I left my job and I became a full-time running coach. And everything he has is because of running from me and what his mom does and contributes. So running has fulfilled me and has given me purpose. It's given me life. And I'm so appreciative of running. Um,
I love that. And I know that this next question is short. I know it might be difficult to answer because of just like how broad it can be, but why do you run?
why do I run? So the reason why I run is because it goes back to my coach, Coach Damon, recent rest in peace, who passed away 2 years ago now. And he always talked about me as an athlete when I ran in high school. He says, "Man, why did you do bowling? And I was like, he's like, I'm old and I don't even do bowling. He said, why did you waste your time in bowling when you could have been doing track? I would have made you would have been a D1 athlete if I just had you at least one season, you know? And he really pushed, and I was close to going to Syracuse. I just didn't, I didn't have enough stats to prove where I was really going to progress because I only had 3 months. And when the scouter came, it was, he's good, but I don't, it's not enough. And I remember just the years of I thought about it, and I think about that all the time. I'm like, if I, and I wouldn't change nothing for the world. But if I did run before, I would have been already where I'm at, or even surpassed that. But that's the confidence my coach believed in me, and to me, I I wouldn't say wasted years. Running was not recognizable for me because of where I'm from. A kid from Brooklyn, New York, who was raised by a single mom, who only saw basketball or rapping as an outlet in the neighborhood that he grew up in Bushwick and Best Eye. Now that that's the reason why I run, because to make up for all the years I didn't run. So I always tell people that I'm playing catch up to the 34 years of my life that I've only run now 16. So we're thinking about half of the years I didn't get to run. I'm trying to make up for those runs year by year. So that's why I run. So for my coach Damon, rest in peace. He's the reason for what he said to me as a 17-year-old high school student is the reason why I run continuously now.
I love that. Catching up to all the years that I didn't get to run. That
Yeah.
is that is beautiful.
Thank you.
And I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm catching up with all the years myself because I beat myself up all the time. Once I discovered running, I fell in love with that. I was like, why didn't I do this so long ago?
Yeah,
But you know what? You can't look back. All you can do is look forward, and you just do the best you can right now.
exactly.
But those are all the questions that I have for you, Coach Jay. I really want to thank you so much for sharing your journey so openly today. What really stands out for me is the honesty and the willingness to be in the process and to talk about the process, to grow in real time, and to keep showing up even when things aren't perfect or when you have struggles that come up with your training or with your races. That it's something that I think people need to hear. And we talked about this earlier, especially for those that feel like they're just not enough, whether they feel like they're not making progress or whether they think that they're just not ready to be a runner. They don't think they'll ever be a runner because of their pace, their background, body type, things like that. If you're listening and you don't already follow him, his account is kingparkergold2001. So make sure you go and check him out. His content is incredible.
Oh, thank you.
His personality is electric. He's just a great guy, and he will inspire you with everything that he posts. And his journey is really a reminder that you don't need to have it all figured out to be a runner. You just need to keep going and working on that progress, and you will achieve that goal. I promise you. So, Coach Jay, I cannot thank you enough.
No problem, Mike. Thank you, and I appreciate you creating this platform for people to have a voice. I would say I commend those who create podcasts because we don't have a lot of runners don't have the outlet to really express themselves, and on social media, not everybody wants to read a long caption. I like to troll and joke about. So the fact that you're giving our voices to the mouths that we can't speak is very appreciative. Thank you creating this platform and giving me this opportunity to speak and tell my story. So thank you,
Of
Mike.
course. Of course. No, it was a privilege to speak with you, and thank you so much. And thank you for inspiring everybody, inspiring me.
Indeed.
I really want to thank Coach Jay for being on the podcast today. Starting from his beginnings at the end of high school, running in basketball shoes, to achieving some incredible times that he's had during his marathons and during his races, and still being able to post about the process and be able to showcase just how you get from point A to the finish line and the grit that goes into getting to that finish line and the progress and resilience that is needed, the ups and the downs, because we all know as runners that progress is not, or success is not a linear line, and we will have good days and bad days, but as long as we keep pushing, we will achieve that goal that we want. But I want to thank you all again for tuning in to At Your Own Pace, and a reminder that whether you're walking, you're jogging, or or just dreaming of getting started, remember that you belong here at every pace. And until next time, I want you to keep running your story 1 mile at a time, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.